Good morning. How's everybody? Good? Yeah? I'm Linda Gargan. I spend a lot of time talking to audiences, and typically I do this with no notes at all. But typically I'm not talking about my son. So today I'm nervous. I've got my notes in front of me because this is my personal story, and it's never quite as comfortable, but help me with it. So first question, how many of you are parents? So there's a few of us in the room. So when we said earlier that there would be one parent at each table, we miscounted, right? Okay, great. So we're all in this together. Let me talk to you about why you don't see a picture of my son up here. My son's 28 years old. He is an incredible, successful young man. He works for an international company in sales, and because of the prejudice about behavioral health challenges, he would kill me if I put his picture up here. It could cost him possibilities in his job. It could cost him possibilities in his community. So we won't be looking at a picture of him this morning. And this is one of the things that we do need to be thinking about as we talk about all of our journeys, is this prejudice about behavioral health challenges. It continues to be a part of our lives every day. The media does not help, obviously. And when we think about physical health challenges, we have become extraordinarily compassionate in most cases about physical health challenges. If we find out that a child in our community has developed a catastrophic physical illness, what do? We do bake sales. We have prayer meetings. We rally around them. If what happened with my son, as I will talk to you about this, happens, we back away. We put our heads down. We thank God it wasn't our child. So we do have some work to do on normalizing behavioral health experiences. So let me tell you a little bit about Dylan. When he was about 2, I began to notice that there were triggers, red flags, that he might be walking a bit of a different path than some of his classmates. Now, Dylan had a burden in that his mother is a trained psychologist. His dad had a burden, he had a burden. No one should have to live with us. Because we see something in everything, right? So I saw something in Dylan. By the time he was 4, his well-meaning preschool teacher at the end of her rope said to me, "Every night I get down on my knees and I pray for Dylan." Which that was nice, except it was at the same time she was saying, and he won't be back in school for the next 3 days. By 3rd grade, I really started to search for some answers. And I started searching within the school system. And I couldn't find the answers that I was looking for. And my search was very peculiar, because what would happen is I would talk with teachers about him would be they would say, "Linda, you're just seeing things that aren't there. Dylan's a boy. Dylan's an athlete. Give him time. It's a phase." Now, I will say his father took some of those same theories to heart and believed the same thing. So there was this gender bias, and the gender bias was twofold. First of all, as his mother, I had some credibility. If it was his father, I personally believe there would have been better listening. And because he was a boy, boys act out. We expect that boys act out. So we were facing some issues of no one would listen to me. So at about 10 years old, I started looking outside of the school. Again, I've been told all these things. It's you won't let go, your child's fine. I could find no one who would do any type of testing on my son. I could find no one who would seriously listen to what we were saying, because we had a dynamic going on that is very difficult for the healthcare world to deal with. Dylan was the perfect child at school most of the time. He was one of the most well-liked kids in school. He was a terrific athlete. What could possibly be wrong with him? Well, what was wrong with him was that I was at home teaching him how to patch the holes in the wall because he was having significant issues. So this continued for a while. We lived in much secrecy with this. I didn't talk with my friends about it because my friends felt like I should be able to handle it. And then we had a huge, very public explosion. And suddenly Dylan's picture was on the front page of every newspaper and on the news every night. And I learned what happens when something like this goes public. I learned that it was my fault. Kid had too much money, his parents weren't paying any attention. How come Linda can work with all these other kids and she can't do anything for her own child? It was amazing, because I made the mistake of reading the blogs that came out about this particular incident. Don't ever do that. So what I would say to you was we were a family that was well-resourced. We lived in the best zip code. Our son went to the best school, and we still could not find answers to the issues that we were dealing with. It is impossible to imagine what happens for disenfranchised families, fragile families that are trying to piece together their lives day to day, who are also having these issues. Now with Dylan, just because of the person he is, we found much of his release in his physical activity. And this is important. As we think about our workforce, we must remember that children are not all the same. Where mindfulness will work with one child, CrossFit works with Dylan. And so this is not a one-size-fits-all. We've also got to think about our workforce. And here's a couple of things I want to share before I finish here. We've got to revisit the definition of healer. Remember back in the day when healers really listened? We've got to reteach our workforce how to reprioritize humanness. And I just start with eye contact. If we talked with a healthcare worker who did not make eye contact with Dylan, I wrote them off. They weren't going to be helpful. And Dylan wrote them off because Dylan is unbelievably perceptive. We've also got to teach our workforce to never forget that at the end of the day, I as his mother, his father as his father, are his only constants. The rest of you will come and go, but we will always be there. And then I want to emphasize something that we've heard here today. If I had just had someone to talk to. Now you would think in the field I was in that I would have had lots of people to talk to. But when it's your child, that's a little different. So we must continue to invest our time, our training into bringing parent and family peers into our workforce as a very respected part of that workforce. So let me end with this. How's Dylan doing today? I've told you he's working. He's doing fabulously most of the time. We text every day. If he calls, my heart stops, even now. But he's learned how to self-regulate. But here's something that's very important that I must say to you. When Dylan was about 15, I agreed to allow him to be put on medication. Some folks have talked about that. Here's the repercussion from that. When Dylan graduated college, he wanted to go into special forces. That was his desire. Do you know what happened? He was turned down because the military has no idea. This is our first generation of highly medicated children, and they have no idea what that's going to result in. So as we talk for the next couple of days, I'm excited about talking more with you about this, and thank you for your time.